morning. Welcome to Talk is Cheap. Precious Eda is my name, and I'm so glad to be in your space once again. Welcome to Talk is Cheap. I'm so excited for what I'll be sharing on this video this time. I'll be talking about relationships. It's something that I do. I write a lot about relationships, and then I talk about them, and I'm going to be talking about getting the best advice on getting relationship advice. So what's the best advice on getting relationship advice? A lot of people, a lot of young people, not just young people, a lot of people are into relationships. We all are into relationships. We keep relationships. We have friends, we have partners, we have parents, we have siblings, we have family people, and a lot of people are into relationships. So but then when it comes to having commitments in relationships and having friends and keeping partners and all that, we've got quite a lot of advice out there. There's a lot of people who say things, who give their views and all that on relationships, how relationships should be, what you should do to get the best out of your relationships, or how to, sometimes you see posts and read articles like the 10 things to do to keep your relationship, the top 20 things you shouldn't do to lose your relationship, and all things like that. So I thought about it a lot, and I said, well, I'd like to talk about the best advice on getting relationship advice, because quite frankly, when you look at the material, the advice and all the opinions on relationships that are out there, they're quite interesting. Sometimes you think some of these advice are so unreasonable or so unbelievable, or it's quite difficult. Sometimes you hear people say the best things, it sounds great, but then trying to do it by yourself, it's difficult. People find it so difficult in doing what they've heard and keeping up with the things that people have said you should try. When you have a list of 30 things that you should do to keep your marriage, or 25 things that you should do to get the best out of your friends, sometimes you just get overwhelmed. And so, but looking at it, what's the best advice on getting relationship advice? Now, what's the best advice? Now, first of all, human beings are relational beings. Human beings are relational beings, in the sense that we were created, we were made to interact with each other. We were not made to be lone rangers. We were not made to be go alone people. We were made to interact with each other. We were made to relate. We were made to have relationships. That's what we are. That's why we're plenty in this world, And then when I hear people say things like, "Oh well, I'm a self-made man," or "I'm a self-made this," or I got here all by myself," it's impossible. When you hear maybe celebrities or music stars say, "I'm self-made," you cannot be self-made. If you were self-made, perhaps you alone, you wrote your songs alone, and then you produced the songs all by yourself, and then you shot the video all by yourself, and then you did all the work in the video all by yourself, and then you sold it to yourself, and the concerts that you go to and the tickets that you sell to get fame and get rich, you did it, you bought all those tickets, so it's not possible. Nobody can be self-made. We are all products of people. We are all products of relationships. So relationships are very important to us as human beings. And then we must understand again that people are different. We're all different in some way. Scientists will tell us that no matter how similar people may be, even the most identical twins have a lot difference in their DNA. They're just different. No fingerprints are the same. No two fingerprints are the same. That's why we're different. And we're all products of our environment and our experiences. We're all products of our environments and our experiences. We're different in so many ramifications. We could be similar. Sometimes you could see someone like who looks like me in another country, and then we've never met. The person could just look like a carbon copy of me, but we've never met, we don't know. But then we're still different. We're not the same. We cannot be the same. And that's how we're created. We're created intricately. We're created so marvelously. We're made so interestingly that we're different. And so people are products of their personalities and the environment. And then because of our differences, our relationships are always different. Our relationships are always different. We are always different when we relate with each other because of our differences, because of our experiences, because of our nature, because of our personalities. Our relationships are always different. You do not expect someone who, let's say, has a short temper to relate with people the same way someone who has a good temper to relate with people. So we're always different. We're always different. You do not expect someone who grew up in a place where they constantly met with people and had a good social life to relate with people the same way with someone who did not have a good social life, maybe growing up, who did not meet people, who did not interact a lot with people, who is more reserved. You don't expect them to relate in the same way. So we're different. So because of that, we're different. And so when it comes to taking relationship advice, now here's the point. When it comes to taking advice on relationships, never take advice on relationships based on people's experiences. Based on other people's experiences. Never take relationship advice based on other people's experiences. People organize shows, they talk about relationships and all that, and then they always share their own personal experiences. There's no big deal. There's no problem with sharing your personal experiences. Someone might also be having some similar experience, and then they would learn from yours. But then the issue is, in sharing your personal experience, do not make it a paramount. Do not make it like a general. It must be generally acceptable that because you went through your relationship in this way, or you got this experience, or you know people who act like this, or you acted like this or like that in your own relationship, and it worked for you or it didn't work for you, therefore every other person who's listening to you must act like this or don't act like that, and then it would work for them. It doesn't work that way. What works for me in my relationship might not work for you in your relationship. What works for person A in his relationship or her relationship might not work for person B in her relationship or his relationship. And so people are different, and because people are different based on the personalities, which is the difference in personalities mostly caused by differences in environments, differences in experiences. Because of this, people's relationships would be different. And when people's relationships are different, you do not expect everybody to have the same experience or the same outcome. Now we must understand that principles in life, or laws, there are laws in life. For instance, the law of gravity is a natural law, is constant wherever you go. And so there are various laws like that, laws of motion and all those kind of stuff. They're constant. They're not changing. It means if you go to any place, if you go to anywhere, if you go to any person, the same experience they will see with that law. Now, principles are universal, but the application of such principles differ and are different from one person to another, from one experience to another. So for instance, I say the principle of patience in relationship. Or tolerance in relationship. The general principle is that people must try to be patient with the people that they relate with. They must try to be patient. They must try to be tolerant. They must try to understand people. It's a general principle. But then, in applying that principle to specific people and to specific experiences, the question now comes up: how much patience can I have in my relationship? And that boils down to the experience you're having in your relationship. That boils down to your personality. Many people cannot. There is a level of patience a person might have, and it could be different to the level of patience another person can have. There's a level of tolerance a person A can have, and it's different from the level of tolerance person B can have. And so, yes, tolerance and patience are the general principles, but then in applying those principles to your relationship, you have to personalize it. You have to customize it. You have to make it, some people, some people are blessed to have so much patience, so much self-control. And then people who are in relationship with those kind of people, they'll enjoy a lot. People who have so much self-control, so much tolerance. But then you do not expect people to relate in the same way, in exactly the same way with someone who has little patience, little self-control. And that way you will now say, okay, he must learn to have more patience. You must learn to have more self-control and all that. But then the person's experience is going to be different from the person who's having a lot of patience and a lot of self-control. And so when you are taking advice from someone and it has to do with relationships, it's good to get the general principles, but then apply those general principles specifically to your own experience. Let it apply specifically to your own experience. If it doesn't apply specifically to your own experience, you end up trying to duplicate the experience of another person, because people's experiences are different. What triggers someone's anger in situation A might not be the same that triggers someone's anger in situation B. A person could be so tolerant to the most grievous offense in situation A, and then a person could be so intolerant to what you might think is the least offense in situation B. So in relationships, as people relate, husband and wife, for instance, do not take advice and swallow it hook, line, and sinker from someone else based on their experiences. The way they handled a situation in their own marriage might have worked for them, but it might not work for you exactly the same way when you have a similar situation in your own marriage. So you see, the way somebody met the love of his life might not be the same way you will meet the love of your life. The general principle is you will meet the love of your life. But then in meeting the love of your life, the situations could be different. And so it would be crazy. It would be a huge mistake for you to apply general principles here and then apply a principle based on someone's experience here and then take it and apply it hook, line, and sinker to yourself. So the point of this video is in getting or in taking relationship advice. Do not take relationship advice based on people's experiences. And that's why when I share on relationships, when I talk to people on relationships, when I counsel people on relationships, I hardly share from my experience. I try as much as I can to know the person's personality, to know the person's experience, to know how it conforms to that person specifically, and then see how, understanding that person's specifics, I take the general principle and put it to that person's specifics and say, this is how you could go this way and it would work for you. I can share my experience with you, but I'm not going to say take it hook, line, and sinker, because your experience could be different from my experience. So you see, in getting relationship advice, do not take experiences hook, line, and sinker do not take advice hook, line, and sinker based only on people's experiences. Try to take the general principles and then apply them to your specific situations. For instance, someone might say, oh, your partner is maltreating you, therefore pack out of the house or just break up with them. And then another person will say, no, that thing you call maltreatment isn't really maltreatment. You just have to endure. But then this person who is seeing, who feels is being maltreated, seems like they can't take it anymore. And then you feel, well, this is so simple, I can take it. People should take it. I take this every day. That you take it every day doesn't mean the next person can take it every day. So in getting relationship advice, the lesson for this video is, do not take relationship advice based on people's experiences. Get the principles of the relationships. Get the principles. Get the general principles and apply them to your specific situation. In subsequent videos, I'll talk more about applying general principles to your specifics and how it all works. But then the bottom line is, when you get relationship advice, do not take it hook, line, and sinker and apply it to yourself. Take the principles, look at how you could adjust yourself to it, look at how it could apply to you, what you could do to be better. You might not replicate exactly the experience of the person who is even giving you the principles. But then when you get the principles and apply them to your own relationship, you could get the result. And then in applying them to your own relationships, you ensure that you customize them. You could get the results that you want. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next time. Do not forget to like, to like this, to subscribe to my channel, like this video, and click on the notification button for you to get more videos. Precious Ella is my name, and this is Talk is Cheap. Ciao. God bless you. See you next time.